Hello, hello. Let's get going. Hello, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and this is the ohmTown Daily News Show. I think my camera's up, kind of messed up. So, congratulations to those listening via the podcast. You do not have to bear witness to my wonky camera. I hit it because I noticed a hot pixel on my camera. It's driving me nuts, and I'm going to be sending it back to the manufacturer for a full replacement, doggone it. Yes, that is the level of irksome that it is. Okay, so today is September 28th, 2022. I've already selected a bunch of articles, as I always do. I haven't read them. There's one that's actually going to make a course correction on something that I was talking about. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, involving Figma and Adobe. I kind of derped that one. I got it all mixed up because there was another purchase that they had made that I believe it was either in the process of being acquired or was acquired. And I'm trying to find the article. It just popped into my head right before the show. I'm like, oh yeah, that Figma is something else. But anyway, $20 billion purchase of Figma actually represents a diminishing gamut of competitors to Adobe. And when you have billions of dollars and you have the ability to just scoop up the competition and make them disappear, well, it limits what is out there and the competitive nature of business. So now a bunch of people are moving to another one. We'll end up talking about that here in a minute. But anyway, so ohmTown.com is a news aggregator. It throws a bunch of articles into 6 main categories and then trickles them down into 50 channels. Not all of those channels are live, but I'm going to eventually, hopefully, if the universe conspires to make it happen, that would be great. But otherwise, I'm going to work towards launching new shows starting in January, just like I launched ohmTown Daily News Show and ohmTown.com to the public in January. I will launch another couple of shows at least. So the plans are set. The course is plotted, and we will dive the plan and, plan the dive and dive the plan, as my dive trainers taught me to do. And that applies to jumping out of an airplane and maybe even eating a meal, Anyway, I'm getting a little goofy. It's been a long day. I haven't really been able to get much done, but it's still just been a tedious day. Let's get into today's articles. First article is in Smack Talk. Obscene Apple News notification. First sign that Fast Company was hacked. Fast Company is one of the websites that I used to go to. I don't normally get anything from them, but I thought that this was interesting. Hackers used Fast Company's Apple News access to send obscene push notifications, which led to the complete removal of the website's content from the internet. On Tuesday, business-centric news outlet Fast Company sent 2 obscenity-laden push notifications to its Apple News followers. Talk about smack talk. Apple News responded by disabling the feed and acknowledging the incident on Twitter. Normally, as of late, I had been clicking on the news before I do it on the stream so that I don't have that flash and the delay in doing the news article itself, but I didn't do it with this. I don't know if people care one way or the other. Let me know in comments. I can change this background too if you're interested, to whatever you want. Well, almost whatever you want. It's a service. It's a product called Twinkly, and it's controlled by an app. It's pretty neat back there. You just string the lights around whatever you want, even a Christmas tree. That's what they're intended for. But I like what's going on there. It's feeding into my head, and I'm plugged into ohmTown. Anyway, I'm easily distracted, kind of like a cat. Amber Neely is the author of this article over at appleinsider.com. Obscene Apple News notification. First sign that Fast Company was hacked. Well, at least maybe I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's all Fast Company. But on Tuesday, business-centric news outlet Fast Company sent 2 obscenity-laden push notifications to its Apple News followers. Like I said, that's some serious smack talk. Yeah, I don't have the actual articles that were pushed. I'm really curious. The hackers then linked to a forum post where they revealed that they would release thousands of employee records and draft posts from Fast Company's database. They also informed readers that customer information was stored in a different database to which they do not have access. This all led to a situation where Fast Company owners decided to take the entire site down. The site was pulled shortly after the incident and hackers' response, and as of 6:42 a.m., the site remains offline. There used to be a website called Eft Company, and it didn't stand for fast. What do you think? Is the website back online? All signs point to no. Wow. Let's try that a different way. Okay, so eventually my DNS, see, I have my own internal DNS. I don't reach out to my ISP anymore. I stopped doing it some time ago because ISPs track everybody like you wouldn't believe. They know everything, every website that you go to if you use their DNS. Anyway, the fastcompany.com now has a statement that says Fast Company's content management system was breached Tuesday evening. As a result, 2 obscene and racist push notifications were sent to our followers in Apple News about a minute apart. The messages are vile and are not in line with the content and ethos of Fast Company. Tuesday's breach follows an apparently related event that occurred Sunday afternoon on fastcompany.com when an unknown actor or actors posted similar language on the site's homepage and other pages. Fast Company regrets that such abhorrent language appeared on our platforms and in Apple News, and we apologize to anyone who saw it before it was taken down. We immediately retained a leading global incident response and cybersecurity firm, and together are investigating the situation. We have shut down fastcompany.com until the situation is resolved. Well, good on them. Meanwhile, you can go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I want to see something real quick. Oh, well, yeah. The nuts and bolts of that page, by the way, is just a straight up HTML message. So whatever their content management system was, it is no longer being accessed, at least by any of their front-facing web pages. Well, good on them for acting. I think it probably should have been in the process of mitigation since Sunday, but who knows what they thought was the full extent of this. Now they know. And the forensic analysis is going to reveal a whole lot more. In the meantime, let me throw this into chat. One of these days, I'll get ahead of that. The next article is in The Word in Tech. It says Marvel's upcoming Blade movie has lost its director. Hello, Lunchbox. How are you? This is an interesting article only because of the title. Like all of the articles, I don't read them before I engage in discussion here. Normally, I have some type of experience with the topic because of what I do every day. But this is a personal kind of because I just bought all 3 of the Blade movies. Again, I used to have them. I think I had them on VHS, and then I purchased them in DVD. And then I started denouncing physical media only because, well, I wanted to be able to take anything or access anything anywhere, and it's really hard to keep on carrying around thousands of CDs, DVDs, books, and whatnot without, being a billionaire and having people carry suitcases and trunks and eventually 18-wheelers. You just can't do it. Come on. There's so much information. You just can't print it out and carry it around. Anyway, so I did away with physical media and started buying everything digitally. Well, I had never purchased the Blade movies, even though I really dig them. I have a bone to pick with one of the Blade movies because, well, not one of them, all of them, because I designed one of those blades that he uses, the S-Glaive. But I obviously they created it in parallel, but I keep believing in my head that I'm the designer of it. Only keep the top 10 unless it's music, then keep all of it. Yeah, see, so Lunchbox says only keep the top 10 unless it's music and then keep all of it. See, but I keep everything is available in some ephemeral sense. I can always find old music, old videos, old everything. From old classical music to modern pop to everything in between. I listen to everything from classical to death metal. There's just nothing that is beyond the reach of somebody that is, aware of what can be done. So, I don't want to keep anything. I just want everything to be accessible. Make it accessible to consumers in perpetuity, just stream it all, make it a click away, frictionless, affordable, accessible. But sometimes there's somebody out there, like I want to buy the Three Amigos. I want to buy the Three Amigos in Apple iTunes, but I can't. You can only rent it. I don't know why they only allow you to rent the Three Amigos. What is wrong with this? What is wrong with this? Just flip the switch to let me pay, well, they're going to rip me off now because I want it so bad. They're going to rip everybody off because they know that Mayor Watt really wants the Three Amigos. So I'm sorry, everybody who wants the Three Amigos. It's probably going to go on sale for $30. I'm not happy about it, but there's a whole theory that after they eat the bat out in the desert, everything else is a hallucination and their eventual demise. I thought it was a fascinating and possibly very, very true situation. And you can find that argument on YouTube, by the way. Anyway, the reason why I even talk about any of this is because I just bought all 3 of the Blade movies. They're on sale on Apple iTunes, $5 each. Not bad if you're into the Blade movies, but Mahershala Ali is going to be the new Blade. I don't normally cuss, but it's going to be badass when it actually hits the screen. But guess what? They just lost its director. So Marvel's upcoming Blade movie has lost its director. So in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter last night, Marvel attributed Tariq's Blade exit to continued shifts in our production schedule and thanked him for his contributions to the project thus far. In his own statements, Tariq echoed the studio's sentiments about their working relationship having been a good one and expressed his eagerness to see where the next director takes it. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So this is over at The Verge. Charles Pulliam Moore is the author. I don't know what else is really going to be in here. Ugh. They redesigned their website, The Verge, and it's very, I don't know, cyberpunky now. Details about the new Blade movie have been surprisingly sparse since the project was first introduced to much fanfare back at the San Diego Comic-Con in 2019. Yeah. Lunchbox says, I said lunch blocks. I don't know what's in my head right now, but Lunchbox says, I think I merged Blade right when I said your name, so sorry about that. Lunchbox says, Blade 3 sets a low bar in my opinion. Yeah, I would have to agree. It wasn't really a an amazing hit, but I just love the idea of the Blade and the world building there. And it's part of the Marvel universe, comic book universe, and then it got pulled into a movie. And now, if it's in the MCU, that reimagining there is going to be bigger than ever. So I dig anything that is kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe. At least so far. I'm sure somewhere along the line they're going to hit a flat tire and something's going to suck. So this has been around for several years. It wasn't until last year's Eternals that the studio began teasing out how the daywalking vampire might pop up in the MCU. For you it goes 1, 2, 3, and you like 2 mostly because of the director's fingerprints. And that's my order too. I'm going to watch them again this weekend and reminisce, I guess, about how much I liked it when it was first launched. So they talk about other stuff in this article. So I would urge you to go over, follow the link, and check it out. I just want it to hit the screen. I want this new Blade to come out. The Daywalker was really impressive, being back when it was first shown, and pretty much every aspect of it, because I was actually playing role-playing games, and it rolled into things like Vampire the Masquerade and stuff like that. That's what I used when I was playing these kind of games. It was a lot of fun. So the next article is one that I was talking about a couple of days ago. It's in the Hatch Ideas channel, but it's sourced from CNBC, and it's Adobe's Figma deal brings new users to open source challenger PenPot, which just raised $8 million. And this is what I was talking about. So Adobe purchased Figma. I had thought that Figma was a graphic manipulation solution. That it isn't. It is basically like a user interface, product interface, more like a design solution than graphic editing. Looks really cool. I remembered what Figma was, but not until after my show, and $20 billion for it basically pulled the wind out of the sails of any competition between PenPot and Figma and many others. There are quite a few others, including just apps that you can buy that do similar things, just not to the same power as PenPot and Figma and others still. But $20 billion. What does this product have? And Adobe has so much money because so many people utilize Adobe. Everything from individuals to institutions. Many institutions buy a site license where they pay X amount for X number of seats and everybody gets access to it. It's quite spectacular how much money flows into Adobe because it's generally accepted as an industry go-to. But Figma is very specific. It really does extend Adobe's feature set into another area. And I would probably have ended up using Figma on a product that I'm doing to design how everything is going to look in this app. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might take a look at PenPot. At any rate, PenPot is a 2-year-old open source project, is getting new deployments after a larger rival Figma agreed to be bought by software giant Adobe. So they might have actually pictures over here on CNBC. Pardon me one second. So Jordan Novet is the author of this. Kaleidos, the startup behind open source design software Penpot, said it raised $8 million in new funding 2 weeks after Adobe agreed to buy Figma for $20 billion. Essentially, you're going to have some people that are fear of missing out investors. They're going to invest in competition, hoping that somebody else is going to buy up that company. And there's a really good chance if there is some strategic advantage, maybe Adobe will buy, Penpot once it reaches some level of capability and demonstrates that it has a unique feature set. I don't know about that, but Adobe has purchased in 30 years about 55 companies. I think the most that they've paid for something is Figma for 20 billion. 20 billion with a B. And I didn't look at how much money was paid in it could be all stock with a smaller amount in cash, but $20 billion is significant, like generational money. I'm always shocked when I see billion, even though, when I first got started, million is where we were in terms of, wow, that's some serious money. And now we're in the billions of dollars some 30 years later. So it's only been 13 days since Adobe announced its plan to spend $20 billion on Figma, the maker of popular design software. In time, an open source alternative called Penpot has seen a surge in activity. I'm really curious if they're going to show a picture of it. No. Well, the company Penpot said that the signups for its service has increased 5,600% in a single day after Adobe agreed to buy Figma. And they go into greater detail, of course. But if you are curious about what Figma and Penpot did, I urge you, just go over and just do a search for Figma and you'll see it's really kind of a design feature, more like Visio than Photoshop, basically. And it says, we certainly didn't assume Figma was going to get bought by Adobe, Sakota said in an interview. And Cisco is all over the place too. My goodness. Although I think that Cisco's networking and equipment is kind of dying on the vine in terms of adoption and what people are looking for. Maybe the telecom industry is still focused on Cisco, but general computer networking, I think people are more interested in less expensive, less proprietary networking and switching technology in general. Anyway, if you're curious about this purchase of Figma, you can follow that link that I should have thrown into chat. Pardon me one second. Okay, so that's Penpot. And the next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. A 34-core Intel Raptor Lake chip apparently has just shown up out of nowhere. A few weeks ago, the author of this article held a Raptor Lake wafer in their hands. However, it looked absolutely nothing like the Raptor Lake wafer just spotted at Intel Innovation by Paul Alcorn for the Tom's Hardware site. This new wafer shows off a fundamentally different chip design to the standard Raptor Lake S wafers that they've seen so far. Rather than 2 rows of P cores butting up against 4 clusters of E cores, that's what do you call it? my brain, performance cores, and whatchamacallit. God, my brain just went blank. They're not eco cores, they're efficiency cores, doggone it. For a maximum of 24 cores total, a la the Core i9 13900K. What they're seeing was an unannounced wafer that is interconnected grid of what appears to be solely performance cores and 34 of them. They might have pictures, but my aggregator intentionally kicks them out. I don't really want graphics from other sites aggregated into my site, so I do intentionally nix them. I might in the future start grabbing an image that is intentionally applied for their feed, their news feed, but I won't grab the articles graphics. But when you click the link, obviously it's going to take you over to pcgamer.com, and Jacob Ridley is the author. And there you go. It's a cutaway of a 24 core die that they'd been expecting for a long time. The 34 core die looks a lot different. If that's the 34 core die, I wonder if they're trying to get closer to what Apple did, so that they can actually expand the number of cores on a particular die, and make it so that they don't have to be completely retooled. They can simply cut 2 dies out instead of 1, and then they have to redesign the entire architecture of the system just to attach a second set of cores. I wouldn't be surprised by this. It's almost, passive aggressive industrial espionage, because they find out how it's done later by reverse engineering. I'm not saying that that's exactly what Intel did, but it might be amazing to see that that's actually what happened. They learned a bit of information and then said, hey, let's redo our architecture for this 34 die system or core system. So it says this sort of die layout is more expected of Intel's server grade processor, starting with those based in the Skylake architecture. It works by increasing interconnectivity by having more cores connected directly to one another, reducing the bottlenecks that could happen with high core count chips on a ring bus architecture, which ring bus is just horrible anyway. But maybe in chip architecture, that is the best efficiency method for the architecture. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't ever do deep dives. If you want to do deep dives into chips and their performance, check out Gamers Nexus. They do a really good deep dive into performance with a gamer's mindset. It gets a little bit different when you're talking about enterprise stuff, server chips, and their use. Their performance is mainly about utility and not gaming. Although there are rigs that you can purchase where it's set up for nothing but GPUs, so that you can do virtualization and grab the GPU compute as a cluster and play play games virtually in virtual machines from a remote desktop, and you get the full performance of a local desktop out of the enterprise class equipment. It's a lot of fun, but expensive. So chips like that at the enterprise level are getting into the $80, $90, $100,000+ price bracket. So let's go into the next article. Again, I've not read anything about this. I judge a book by its cover, really. I see a little bit of a snippet and I see its title. This caught my attention because it says the space MMO looks like Halo and Starfield had a beautiful baby. Earth from Another Sun is a space MMO / FPS that just dropped a new trailer. And as you can see, which we're about to see, it's stuffed with bright pink mechs and glorious lush vistas. At the start of it, the author was thinking, wow, this has shown me more to get excited about than Starfield has, which to me, I thought Starfield was No Man's Sky with, the graphics pumped up to 11. And by halfway through, when the mech'em up action started, the author was sold. Yeah, who knows how it'll turn out. It could be vaporware, actually. That's my comment, not theirs. But this looks bombastic, fun, and has battles on an epic scale. It claims up to 1,000 participants in one conflict. And the game is in development at Multiverse Studio. Okay. And we'll know soon enough whether it's worth getting hyped for. There will be a demo available as part of Steam Fest Yes, Steam Next Fest over October 3rd through the 10th. That's right around the corner, folks, which comes with various cosmetic bonuses for trying it out. I'll be there. So let's click this link and check it out. And let me throw it in chat. So if you're curious, you can just click on the link and follow me over there. Rich Stanton over at PCGamer.com is the author of this. And again, the title of the article is "The Space MMO Looks Like Halo and Starfield Had a Beautiful Baby." Let's see here. I don't normally, like I have done in the past, I've always qualified this, that I don't normally do this, but I'm going to play this trailer from the site.
Welcome to Kepler 452, the new home for humanity, light years away from a now uninhabitable Earth. A new generation of mankind lives here, taking their comfort for granted, forgetting how the old civilization was consumed by war, and poised to repeat the same mistake.
It got quiet. Okay. Okay, it looks like there's space combat and there's planetary combat. And it's MMO style? So it's like full contact No Man's Sky. You know, I dig this as long as there's a story. Well, it won me over for most of that. The article that's attached to this, the article that's attached says that blockchain is involved in this. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. It says it does link to the player creation tools. It says with our design tools, you'll be able to create new characters, quests, loot items, art assets, towns, and even new planets. I'm sure that there's going to be a marketplace, just like the article says, based on that. Quite fascinating. So go check out Earth from Another Sun. It'll be, I think it's on Steam. I'm going to go check it out after the stream. We're about halfway through with today's articles. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them in chat. Like I've said in other streams, I vamp. I don't really stick to anything, and if I have to cut off articles to stick to the hour time frame, so be it. I'm more interested in interaction than solely the news. But until that time, let's go continue on to the next article. This is in the Hatch Ideas channel. New Striketober looms as U.S. walkouts increase amid surge in union activity. This is part of the whole thing that is ohmTown, a little bit of everything. Thousands of workers around the U.S. are going on strike or threatening to do so this October amid a recent surge of labor action activity in America, and just 1 month before crucial midterm elections. Support for unions, labor unions in particular, in the U.S. has grown over the past year as a surge in organizing has resulted in workers winning union elections in major corporations, including Starbucks, Amazon, Apple, Chipotle, Trader Joe's, Google, REI, and Verizon. The list is longer than that, but these are kind of the big people on the block. And for much of this, I agree. If a company has record profits and the CEO is making, $100 million a year for steering a company that's born from the hard labor of thousands of people that are making sub-livable wages, and it's always phrased as, well, out of the kindness of our hearts, we have given you a job and you should be grateful. The phrase kiss my ass kind of jumps right to the forefront of my brain, and I have to filter it back when I'm in professional company. And as a consultant, I try to tell people that I interact with, you need to respect your employees, or your employees will walk faster than you can imagine, and you'll have to retrain them. So even if you are sociopathic and you think that you are the great one that bestows upon us employment, thank you so much. Remember, your organization cannot function without employees. Otherwise, it's a company of one, and you will not grow as a company of one. You have to seek additional help. And I've had people say, well, I'm a company of one and I'm making several $1 million a year. Yes, but with more people and their respect, and you respect them, you could be making 10 times as much. But that doesn't always land well. But that's my job. I'm not here to, be buddy with the people I work for and with. I tell them how it really should be. So Lunchbox agrees and then says, then we need to make sure their lives are filled with desperation so they can't leave. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Let's make them suffer just enough so that they know that they can't leave, because I'm the one that tells the next employer, yes, they left on good terms, and yes, I would hire them. And other question in the United States, you can't, as a former employer, say anything overtly that would lead a potential employer to think that they left on negative terms, or in some way hobbled your business, or in some way negatively impact the hiring process. You can say, based on the questions that are asked, kind of a yes or no, but the moment you expound upon that, you can actually get in some serious trouble if the people that are asking you questions actually go to something like fair labor, and say, hey, this person said that this person I'm trying to hire did all of these bad things in the company and I shouldn't hire them. You have to be very careful when you're responding to some inquiry about past performance. But I have interacted with people that kind of hint, hey, if you keep some downward pressure on them, then they'll do whatever it takes to work for you. Yeah, that would be strangling the golden goose. Yeah, I'll never understand how people. Well, I do. We have built an at-will environment where everybody can quit and everybody can be fired at a moment's notice with little or no planning or care or anything. There's no rationale. They just don't like the way that you came in that day wearing tennis shoes instead of something a little more formal. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But we've built a culture where we as human beings are a crop to be rotated out when leadership is displeased with your performance, instead of finding what it is that's causing you to not be, peak performance employee. Usually it's work-life balance and unsatisfactory existence, because you have some tool of management sitting there. And playing the field is tilted firmly in the direction of the owning class. Correct. Again, I've said this in previous streams. It is the providers, the producers. It's those people that have the means to provide a job, that come out the more that I see the wealth increase, the more I see sociopathic behavior. And thus, they think that they are in charge of people as a being, almost like slavery, except that people are getting paid and nobody is getting physically abused because nobody wants to end up in jail. But this barely livable wage, even though people are making amazing profits, just seems to me to be, again, I say this word a lot, sociopathic. It seems to be antisocial behavior built to get mine off of stepping on your neck. And I don't want anybody ever saying, well, this guy is a socialist and you're a commie bastard, that kind of a thing. And I'm sitting there going, no, 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 don't get me wrong. I believe in the business process. I believe in capitalism. I think that it is the best process in a democracy. The problem there is unethical business, where it harms everyone around you so that you can get a Ferrari and then park it next to the burnt out husk of a VW Bug that somebody working for you for 10 years is only able to afford out of being able to scrape together $500. I don't see how that helps anybody. But again, I have said it before, this also, you don't become a billionaire by being compassionate. You have to be brutal. And I challenge anybody to tell me where a self-made billionaire is that was compassionate and didn't do horrible things to get there. And I'll peel back the onion layers until we get to how they really did make their billions. So Lunchbox says some products, quote unquote, should not be marketized, though, in your opinion. I'm curious, expound upon that, because I'd like to know. That it reads like you have an example in mind, and I'm curious what it is. So this Striketober is looming as people are getting kind of burnt out with with management. And Michael Sainato is the author of this article over at The Guardian. And it says that thousands of workers are going on strike or threatening to do so into October. Oh, yeah. So Lunchbox I explained sneakers marketized, healthcare not marketized. Agree. As I've been told and I've witnessed, when Six Sigma goes into the healthcare sector and MBAs roll in there and dictate, actuarial tables dictate, which medications are actually doled out, which processes are put in place, even though the healthcare providers themselves, the doctors, the surgeons, the spectrum of nurses, so many other professionals would say, do all of this, but then they provide the paperwork to the MBAs and other people that are in the administration side of things, and they have the business process in mind and not the human in mind. Suddenly, people start getting told no because it surpasses the insurance envelope, and the actuarial tables say, well, you're 45 years old and this will not be recapitalized by the time you die, so we're not really going to let you have that life extending procedure, out an abundance of caution that you will still die of something else before we recapitalize the expense of that procedure. And I've witnessed that, talking with people in that profession. It's a reality and a calculated risk. Even the doctors themselves that are part of that echelon of evaluation will say, well, you may not live long enough. But if you're rich, yes. If you're rich, if you have political or some other pull, then the procedure will go off without a hitch. But yeah, if you're just paying your normal insurance, you better have an insurance, a primary insurance, and then a secondary insurance, and maybe somebody else in your family has a tertiary performance somewhere to deliver all of the money and offset it in some way. It's shocking. And meanwhile, there are hospitals that are buying massive amounts of land so that they can expand their operations because these prices are outrageously high for the procedures, because there are deep pockets in insurance. And the best patient is the one that pays their dues but never utilizes the service. Insurance, it's where pirates went. That's almost a t-shirt. I might have to turn it into one if you don't mind. Insurance, it's where pirates went. So union election petitions increased 58%. Again, it's because there's no bargaining power. There's no impetus for companies to give more, because they are the ones that can say, well, if you bitch and moan too much, you're fired. I'll fill your lunchbox. How's that? Wait, no, that doesn't sound right. I'll give you a slice of bread. I'm not sure. We'll work something out if I do it. I'm going to try and delete the last 30 seconds. We'll come back to that later. According to the Labor Action Tracker at Cornell University, strikes in 2022 so far have significantly outpaced strike activity in 2021, with 180 strikes involving 78,000 workers in the first 6 months of 2022, compared to 102 strikes involving 26,500 workers in the first half of 2021. And the tracker records 41 strikes that started between August 15th and September 15th, 2022, involving 35,250 workers. That's quite a database. There's a database about police-involved shooting and stuff like that online, which, when you say that phrase, you go, what have we come to? Where we have a database of police-involved shootings, or gun shootings. Now we have a labor action tracker that monitors how many people are getting pissed off enough to form a union. Those are the people that are motivated into action. Think about how many other people are just plain frustrated. And in my line of work, when one person asks a question, it's really it's the one where the person doesn't have enough pride or filtering in place to suppress raising their hand and asking the question. When I'm consulting and somebody pops up and says, well, what about this? I know that there are other people in that arena that are saying, what do I do about this? And so it helps me to know those questions. Well, when it comes to labor activity, when a union forms, you can count on a whole lot more people are just plain frustrated and just want to do their job and leave. But with the benefit of a union, it may change the tide so that people have bargaining power. And that's the intent of a union. I think we need more, because wealth is entirely out of balance, and it's primarily because of that lack of bargaining power. There's more over here at this article, and again, if you're employed and you're frustrated, you might want to just follow that link and go check out what's really happening with the workforce. You might be surprised that there are people maybe in your own business, in your line of work, that want to form a union because they're, for lack of a better phrase, they are being abused by their employer. Union forever. Sing it with me now. What a beautiful singing voice you have, Lunchbox. Let's go on to the next article. This is the Word in Tech channel. And Amazon is about to announce a bunch of new products. They're all going to be listening to you, I'm sure. Amazon has some new products on the way. The company is holding an invite-only virtual event today, which is yesterday, where it expected to introduce, oh no, it might be today, it is today, where it expected to introduce products from across this lineup of brands. So chances are there's going to be a lot to see. I have not watched it. I have to go do some due diligence based on this article. So I am in the know about what's going on. Those new products could come from Amazon's product lines like the Kindle, Fire TV, Echo, Arrow, Ring, Blink, etc., etc. They have the vacuum line now too. Oh gosh, I don't know. I call it the poo pusher because it'll just push poo on carpet and hardwood floors because it's not going to detect it. It's going to roll right over it. It's kind of like the Tesla for toddlers, but this is the Roomba for poo. I guess I could call it the Pumbaa. Never mind. I don't know. I'm going to just click the link. Merawatt. Let's move on. This is over at The Verge. Jasmine Hicks is the author of this. And Echo is the big one to keep an eye out for. I actually donated my Echoes. I had 3 of them, and I donated them to a coworker because they had an elderly family member that always wanted to get in touch, but it was too difficult to really communicate on the phone and stuff like that. And so I donated these 3 Echoes to my coworker and said, hey, go give them. And then apparently they started talking, like the Echoes were just like blurting out creepy stuff periodically. And so they reset them. And I think all has been well since, but it's been a few years since they talked to me about their Echo experience. So the event kicks off at 12 p.m. Eastern. So that's noon today. So we have to get in our time machine and go back. But I'm sure if you just do a search right now for Amazon product launch, I'm sure that something will pop up in Google search. So let's keep on rolling through the rest of these articles. Again, I don't really parse my article other than a little snippet. That one had come earlier. The next article is Apple has reportedly rejected TSMC's chip price hike, which does not bode well for Apple chips, considering TSMC is the producer of their chips. A new report claims that Apple has rejected iPhone processor manufacturer TSMC's plan to raise the chip price by around 6%. That would certainly cut into Apple's margin. Apple's margin is typically around 30 to 50%. The TSMC was first rumored in August 2022 to be planning an increase, and then shortly afterward, it formally told its customers that the price rise would take place in 2023. Now, according to Economic Daily News, which I will probably start adding to my news aggregation, it is rumored that Apple will simply reject the price increase, and that TSMC's largest customer is Apple, and that certainly has some leverage. That's that bargaining power that I'm talking about. So all you have to do is be a $1 trillion company, and you'll be able to tell a manufacturer where they can go with their price. Or Walmart. William Gallagher is the author of this over at Apple Insider. This image of silicon looks like a bee is staring at me. So the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company warned their customers, hey, we're going to change the price. It's going to take effect next year. Well, these mega corporations tend to do their pricing well in advance, so they know how much to market and how much is going to be spent and how to price their products. I don't know what the result is going to be. It says the planned TSMC rise was one reason why it had been believed that Apple would increase the price of the iPhone 14 compared to the iPhone 13. Apple kept the 13 pricing for the US and China, but did raise that price for other markets, mostly because of foreign exchange complications. Yeah, things are getting a little pricier, although the dollar is gaining in value. There are other things that are happening in the world. Right now, for the last week, the stock market collapsed, but today it went up 540. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, when I say stock market, that's pretty much what everybody should be assuming. But let's not assume. The Dow Jones went up 550 points. I'm rounding up. S&P 500 went up 71. NASDAQ went up 223. For NASDAQ, it's actually a pretty good climb. For S&P 500, that's a good climb at 2%, but does not recover its losses by any means. And the Dow is certainly hurting over the last week. That said, here in the States, and not everybody is from the States, gas continues to climb upward. This last jump was 2 cents, so we're climbing pretty steadily, pretty much at the pace that it declined when everybody was really, oh my gosh, I did that stickers on things. Well, I hate to break it to y'all. There's two main prices that are influencing, and three if you want to be a little bit more about the raw material, but the profits for the gas producers, again, it's the producers that set that price, right? So the core of the gas price is the one for the manufacturer of the gas. But then the state tax is the biggest chunk after the profits going to the producer. The federal tax is 19 cents across the board. So 19 cents is nothing to get bent out of shape about, when the price for gas is $3.77 nationally. That's the average price. So where in there does 19 cents tax by the federal government make any difference really in the price? And that goes for repairing roads and bridges and other things, and state taxes pay for public schools and local roads and other things, fire and police and stuff like that, and many, many other things. But the profit, the chunk that goes to record profit taking companies during a pandemic when everybody is suffering and losing their jobs and still being told that they have to come in for work, where should you really be pissed off? It's definitely not the federal government. You could probably point a finger at the state government saying, why are your taxes so high? And in the South, the tax is lower. But it's hit or miss. You have to look at the actual state tax. And then you have the profits from the company. I mean, you should really be pissed off at the companies being greedy bastards. But they have stakeholders, stockholders that need to get their dividends. And I've had these conversations countless times where people say, I'd rather be rich than ethical. And you just have to walk away. Yes, the gas companies get subsidies. Yeah, because you can't keep those profits, record profits, without those subsidies. You know what I'm saying? Like, if they don't get those subsidies, those record profits will be even higher. So you got to get those subsidies, lower taxes, things like that, like bonuses to bring their business into the state, and all kinds of stuff that most of us would probably refer to as kickbacks. But when it's from governments, local governments, state governments, federal governments to companies, it's called subsidies. Anyway, that's how we get from this little conversation is how we get from TSMC chip price to the stock market and gas prices. That's how things are tied together. Okay, so let me go on to the next article. This popped up on my radar, and I thought that maybe there was something going on. I started thinking conspiratorially because I was looking at, so most people call this Wacom. What I was told is it's pronounced Wacom, and it's the Cintiq Pro 27. This one just dropped. It's a $3,500 graphics tablet, wherein it's like a monitor. You draw directly on it with the Wacom stylus, and there's various kinds. But $3,500 will get you this gadget right here. Basically, it is a monitor that can lay down a little bit more, and you can draw directly on it. And it has little buttons and little doodads, and it's high resolution, and it's very responsive. But at $3,500, I'd rather buy an iPad Pro 12 and go from there. Completely different work methodology, different tools. There's only one stylus really and that's the pencil for the iPad line. But I can take that anywhere. I can't take a 27-inch anything anywhere. But it's a beautiful solution if you have the money and the space for it. 1,000-to-1 contrast ratio, 400 nits of peak brightness. Probably the full, 99% Adobe RGB, so it's compliant. It has the full gamut. Lunchbox says that they've always wanted a Wacom, and yeah. I agree. Don't get me wrong, I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm poo-pooing the price. But if you are a professional and you are working day in, day out on a solution like this, you can get stuff done. I would use a different term if I knew. Well, I actually try to work hard and filter my words, but man, you could get a lot of stuff done. And if you're in the Adobe ecosystem, it's all seamless. There's no extra drivers. If you could, it's just a beautiful solution, but $3,500 it's pushing it. But again, maybe work will pay for it, right? You can amortize it over 5 years and slowly write it off. But then there's that local business property tax. Oh, God. There's a whole tax called business personal property tax. I always talk to entrepreneurs about this stuff. And they go, what? Yeah. If you use equipment and it's owned, quote unquote, owned by the business, you have to pay taxes on it specifically in your county. So for the fine artist, being able to put your hand right on the workspace is priceless. Lunchbox says, not an artist. That's funny. There's a whole there's a whole ad campaign here from a church where they say it's not a sermon, just a thought. And you're like, not an artist, but could have been. Yeah. If I would have stuck to it, I probably would have loved being able to pay the bills with my artwork, but I picked up computers, and gone was my ability to draw a freehand circle. And so gone goes my art skill. But the Cintiq line has always been something that's really nice. And one of those things that, woulda, coulda, and maybe if I, just so that I could scribble, but now I do it on an iPad, and everything is okay. I'm okay with it. You just have to zoom a whole hell of a lot more. And finally, the last article, and one that's kind of apropos because when I'm done here, I'll take off. U.S. Embassy in Russia tells Americans to leave the country. U.S. Embassy in Russia is urging Americans in the country to leave and warning U.S. citizens not to travel to Russia after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered up 300,000 reservists to aid depleted in forces in Ukraine. Don't worry, all of you reservists, it's a vacation. And that buzzing sound is not bullets, it's mosquitoes. Don't worry. The embassy said in a security alert on Wednesday that Russia may prevent U.S. citizens from leaving the country and conscript dual nationals into military service. Oh my God. That's one that I hadn't read yet. I knew that all of the conscripting and essentially a draft had taken place. Jared Gans from The Hill wrote this article. I don't know if I said who did this last article. The Wacom Cintiq article was written by, what the heck? There it is. Jess Weatherbed. That's a new person in my list of authors. Yeah. Okay. And that's the last one. So that the U.S. Embassy in Russia tells Americans to leave the country is written by Jared Gans. And I had heard that there were some tickets that were being sold like $15,000. And now just to get from Russia to, I think it's Qatar, is $5,000. One-way tickets, because who's going to want a two-way ticket back to the place that wants to send you to the front? And if you protest and you're caught, they will send you to the front. Or that's the rumor. But they're catching thousands of people, like, fish with a fish net. They're just scooping them up, throwing them in vans and going, you're in deep trouble, bub. So many flights have booked up and prices soared after Putin announced a call-up of reservists for the first time since World War II. Russian forces have sustained heavy losses throughout the war, especially since Ukraine launched a counteroffensive earlier this month, through which it has regained thousands of square kilometers of territory. I don't know if they're going to have a map, but the area that is currently under control of Russian forces is identical to what I had said when they first launched their attack. I said that this is the corridor that they're going to want to take so that they can keep basically a firmer grip on Crimea. But they will try and push all the way over to the river that is about a third of the way through Ukraine. I can't remember the name of the river off the top of my head right now, but when they chose to roll in on winter, that was a horrible choice. And now it's been sustained all the way until the next winter. So really, Russian forces is just going to get their butt handed to them again. And as long as, let's say, friends of Ukraine keep feeding technology to them, weapon systems that allow them to defend at the same level that they are being attacked, they will, through sheer will alone, Ukraine will keep pushing back. And what I think should happen really is that they should take back Crimea and push everybody back out. The way that it's being done, the whole vote that's being done, from what I have been told, is that they've brought a whole bunch of Russian citizens into the Donbas and other regions and held an election, and everybody was, yay, let's go to Russia, because they were told, vote for Russia in this sham of an election, or else. And ta-da, promises of taking over the houses that still exist, et cetera, et cetera. You get this land and blah, blah, blah. But it's really a sham of an election designed to gaslight people into thinking locally in Russia that they had legally taken over this land. But it's really a hostile takeover and annexation. It's a real shame. 21st century, we have the ability to overcome these whatever issues are going on in Russia. And Ukraine was managing everything on its own. It had a hostile region between Russia and Ukraine, but that was actually fomented by Russia. So of course there's going to be conflict, because somebody has been promised money and power and fame and control of the region. It's like the king sending a knight in and saying, I'll let you have whatever you want in that region, as long as you take it over and control it with an iron fist. That's basically what, a fascist and a totalitarianist would do. So, and Lunchbox says, and it gets posted, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, but Ukraine might consider leveling the Black Sea Fleet home port. Yeah, then no reason to stay. Yeah, they'll need some I guess American-made weaponry. I don't know. We're really good at selling arms to both sides, so maybe not to Russia. We don't, but we definitely treat Russia and China as kind of a weird. We benefit from trade, but not necessarily selling them weapons. But Ukraine, we will send them free of charge weapon systems and train them. Why? Because they had a yeah, really. They had a good hold on things, and they were trending democratic after having a fascist run in and do some shenanigans to take over. And Ukrainian people said, no, we're not interested in this, and fought back. And Zelensky is now in power, for all intents, doing great things, and gets caught up in some, Putin's grand plan of putting the band back together. Ends up in the middle of a conflict when there wasn't anything except some fringe element. I mean, here we have QAnon and other wingnuts that haven't risen to that level, but that's the equivalent in these other more hostile regions on the edges of countries that have been in political and military turmoil for decades, if not, pretty much forever. To me, there's no difference other than the violence hasn't gotten to that level here in the States. But if the U.S. keeps sending stuff to Ukraine, they'll keep on beating the Russians back further and further. Now they're on the other side of the river again, so let's keep on pushing that. There's several rivers, and there's a smaller river that they've been pushed back over in the Donbas region. I think that we should keep on, it sounds weird to say it, but fomenting democracy. Donetsk. So there's, you know what? So that we're all on the same page here. There are two main areas that I was talking about with people, and where is it? Yeah, I'm trying to find it. This doesn't make for very good air. Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to do this live on the air. But yeah, there's some regions where they're pushing back further east of Donetsk is one. The objective that they really wanted to get to was Dnipro. I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. That's where they really wanted to push over to. Borova is another one. Luhansk is the next. So there's a big city called Luhansk that's close to if not within, I think, the Donbas region. But yeah, that area that is east of Donetsk is where they're getting pushed back now. But there's a whole corridor that basically from where Dnipro turns west and then goes up towards Russia, that corridor is what the Russians really, really want. And if you look at a map of what they're holding right now, as soon as that gets broken by Ukrainians, that little corridor, I think that Ukraine should try and retake Crimea if they so choose to really push that, because Russia threw a whole bunch of forces down into Crimea, but once they're cut off from supplies, all bets are off. They can't fuel any tanks if nothing can get to them. And all they have is armor. All the rest of the military is just gonna go, hey, we're freaking hungry because y'all haven't been making any wheat. So because of Russia, y'all haven't been making any wheat. But it's all about that warm water port, man. They really want that Black Sea warm water port for some reason. It's cheaper to get money back and forth, and by money I mean oil and natural gas and products and everything else, than having to go all the way around. So once it gets into the Mediterranean, it's a lot cheaper date. Okay, so we've pretty much talked about everything from games to global politics and global finance. I think that now is a good time to just call it a day. And I want to thank everybody who might hear this, the sound of my voice. I appreciate it. If you're over at YouTube, please, I really, people are watching videos, but not that many. I don't really hype it up, but I do say, hey, go over to YouTube, follow me over there. Be sure to follow me here on Twitch if you haven't already. Again, I don't really hype anything. I've been doing this now for just shy of 10 months. We'll be coming up on the 10th month here in a couple of days. And it's a lot of fun. And I want more people coming and hanging out and chatting with me. Not to take away from what Lunchbox is providing me. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out. I do really appreciate it. I really do have 50 shows that are planned, and all you have to do is scroll across the menu at ohmTown.com to see what they are. One that's going to come up really fast here is Reality Hacker, which is all about kind of the deep fake VR crossover kind of a thing. We are getting to the point where the software version of humans are well past the uncanny valley. Now is the time where we're going to take these computer generated graphics and turn them into real world versions where the uncanny valley is gone. That technology is coming. I see it coming within the next 20 years. I may be gone by then, but the technology is trending in that direction. Meanwhile, we have VR and computer games that make it so realistic that we can interact with something that we think is human, and it really isn't. It's just software, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and sophisticated computer graphics and simulated voices, and it's pretty amazing stuff. So that's one of the ones that I'm going to be bringing into existence here in the short time frame. By January, we'll have Reality Hacker Live. We're also going to have the Continuity Report, which is a show about movies. I'm still working on Mix War, which is a music channel. The problem here is syncing rights for the VODs is damn near impossible. But live, I can play music. And people can mix it and do whatever they want with it, but they cannot. They would have to clear the rights after the show. Like if people mix music and I stream it, it can't be recorded by me. It can't be redistributed by me. There is no syncing license. And so it would be a live event only and not recorded. At least that is what legal is saying. At any rate, I do have plans for a lot of these in the works. And if you know of somebody that wants to be a host or co-host, get in touch. We can chat, see if we can work something out, and go from there. So with that in mind, I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m., right? I am saying 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you find time to do Roll20-ish online tabletop roleplay, you got it. That right there is actually the channel that I've got on deck. Tabletop Nights. Ta-da! I'll keep you in mind, Lunchbox. Keep in touch. Can't promise anything because it's all really about getting everybody all on deck and ducks in a row, and that kind of a show actually is like once a week, and all of these shows really are once a week, but longer than an hour. That tabletop gaming is longer than an hour for sure, but I love it. So I am looking for people that might be interested. I had a bunch of people, and then they kind of go, that's a commitment. And there was a plurality of people that are all professionals that all said pretty much in unison, that's a level of commitment that I'm not quite ready to do. I'm like, it's a once a week. Come on. Yeah, well, we all have bills to pay and families to feed and families to take care of and stuff like that. Yeah, we're not 15 anymore, you know, but I'm like, I'd make time to hang out and you know, have some drinks, and it's all on Zoom. We can be thousands of miles away, and we instantaneous on a tabletop, a computer tabletop. So yeah, Lunchbox, I'll keep you in mind. Appreciate the effort. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Tell a friend. I'd really love to have a whole bunch of people in here. See ya. Bye-bye.